My foster parents called me a thief and kicked me out. Years later, I found proof of their lie. Their friend's new car was the key. Then she admitted everything. I woke up on my 18th birthday in my foster home in Atlanta, Georgia, expecting maybe a card, a cake, or at least a smile. Instead, my foster dad, Richard, stormed into my room before dawn. His face was red, veins bulging, as he yelled, "Get up, James! You're out of here!" My eyes weren't even fully open. I stumbled out of bed, heart racing, as he grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the door. "What's going on?" I mumbled, confused, my voice shaking. Richard didn't answer. He just pointed to the hallway, his eyes cold as ice. I staggered out, still in my pajamas, and there was my foster mom, Linda, standing in the living room. Her arms were crossed, her lips a tight line. She stared at me like I was a stranger. "You heard him," she said, her voice sharp. "Pack your stuff and go." I froze, my stomach twisting. "Go where?" "This is my home," I pleaded, my voice cracking. I'd lived with them since I was 3, in this small brick house on the edge of Atlanta. They weren't my real parents, but they were all I had. Richard scoffed. "Home? You've been a burden long enough." His words hit like a punch. I begged, my hands trembling. "Why? What did I do?" Linda's eyes narrowed. "Don't play innocent, James. Just leave." In a moment of desperation, I blurted, "Is this because I'm black and you're not?" I'd always felt different, the only black kid in a white family, but I'd never said it out loud. Richard's face twisted. "That's not it. But if that's what you think, maybe our friends were right about you." His voice dripped with venom. "We never loved you. You were never ours. Get out." My chest tightened, like I couldn't breathe. Never loved me? After 15 years? I grabbed my backpack, shoved in some clothes, and stumbled out the door. The morning air was cool, but my face burned with shame and anger. I walked down the quiet street, past neat lawns and porches, with no idea where to go. My pockets held maybe $10, a phone with a cracked screen, and nothing else. I ended up at a park a few blocks away, collapsing onto a bench. The sun was barely up, casting long shadows across the empty swings. My mind raced. What had I done? Was it really about race? Growing up, I'd felt their distant, sly comments about my hair, my music, the way they'd tense when neighbors stared. But this? Kicking me out on my birthday? It was something else, something they weren't saying. I sat there for hours, staring at the ground, replaying their words. "Never loved you." It cut deep, like a knife twisting in my gut. I thought about every family dinner where I'd felt like an outsider, every time their cousins ignored me at school. I'd always brushed it off, told myself it was normal, but now it all came crashing back. My phone buzzed, snapping me out of it. It was a text from my best friend, Mike. "Yo, you good?" I didn't know how to answer. "How do you explain your world falling apart?" I typed back, "Not really. Can you talk?" My hands shook as I hit send. The park was quiet, just the sound of distant traffic and birds chirping. I felt small, like that little kid who first came to their house, hoping for a family. Mike called almost immediately. "James, what's wrong? It's barely 7. His voice was groggy but worried. I took a deep breath, my throat tight. "They kicked me out, man. Richard and Linda just threw me out." There was a long pause. "What? Why?" he asked, sounding more awake now. "I don't know," I said, my voice breaking. "They said they never loved me. Told me to get out." Mike cursed under his breath. "That's messed up. Where are you?" I told him about the park, the bench, the backpack. "Stay there," he said. "Meet me at Joe's Diner in 20. We'll figure this out." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me, and hung up. My eyes stung, but I refused to cry. I'd been through too much to break down now. I stood up, slung my backpack over my shoulder, and started walking toward the diner, my heart heavy, but my steps determined. Whatever came next, I wasn't going to let their rejection define me. I trudged through the streets of Atlanta, my backpack heavy on my shoulders, the morning sun climbing higher. Joe's Diner was a small, greasy spot on Peachtree Street, its neon sign flickering in the daylight. I pushed open the door, the bell jingling, and spotted Mike in our usual booth by the window. His dark hair was messy, like he'd just rolled out of bed, but his eyes lit up when he saw me. He stood, pulling me into a quick, tight hug. "Man, James, you look rough. I'm so sorry," he said, his voice low but firm. We slid into the booth, the cracked red vinyl creaking under us. The waitress, a tired woman with a name tag reading Doris, poured us coffee without asking. I wrapped my hands around the mug, its warmth grounding me. "They just kicked me out, Mike," I said, staring at the steam rising from the coffee. "No warning, no reason. Just told me I was never theirs." My throat tightened, and I swallowed hard, refusing to let the tears come. Mike leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "That's messed up. What did they say exactly?" I recounted every word Richard's yelling, Linda's cold stare, the way they said they never loved me. My voice shook as I mentioned the race thing, how I'd asked if that was why. Mike's jaw clenched. They said it wasn't. But then Richard threw that crap about their friends being right about me. What does that even mean? Mike sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Look, James, you know how it is down here in the South. Some folks, they talk big about being open-minded, but when it comes to their own backyard, they buckle under pressure." He paused, his eyes searching mine. "I'm not saying it's just 'cause you're black, but maybe they got heat from their circle for raising you. People can be small-minded." His words hit hard. I'd felt it growing up, the whispers at family gatherings, the way their cousins never invited me to hang out. Like that time when I was 12, playing in the backyard with their cousin, Ethan. He'd asked, "Why don't you look like us?" The adults brushed it off, told him to be be nice, but I saw their glances. They never corrected the kids who left me out at school, never stepped in when I sat alone at lunch while their precious cousins laughed together. They never stood up for me, I said, my voice low. Not once. Mike nodded, his face grim. Sounds like they cared more about what others thought than about you. He leaned back, sipping his coffee. My folks were different. They didn't care who I hung out with, even when their friends raised eyebrows about you, said you might be a bad influence. He rolled his eyes, like you're the one causing trouble. I stared at the table, my fingers tracing the edge of the mug. I just don't get why they'd throw me out like that. On my birthday, man. My chest ached, the weight of their rejection sinking deeper. Mike reached across the table, his hand on my shoulder. You don't deserve this, James, but you're tough. We'll figure something out. We ordered pancakes, though I barely tasted them. As we ate, I spilled more how Richard and Linda would act fake when company came over, smiling like I was their pride and joy, only to ignore me the second guests left. How their cousins always had excuses for leaving me out. It's like I was a prop, I said, my voice bitter. A good deed they could brag about, but never their real family. Mike listened, his face softening. That's on them, not you. You're better than that. He paused, then leaned in. You need to know why they did this. Like, the real reason. You should go back, confront them, get answers. I nodded slowly, my jaw tight. He was right. I couldn't just sit here, lost in the dark. Yeah, I'll try. But what if they won't talk? Mike shrugged. Then you keep pushing. You deserve the truth. After breakfast, I walked back to their house, my heart pounding. The brick house looked the same, but it felt foreign now. Richard's car was in the driveway. I knocked, my fist heavy against the door. Through the blinds, I saw his face peek out, then disappear. I knocked again, louder. Nothing. I called their phone, my hands shaking. Finally, Richard opened the door, his face hard. You need to leave, James. Neighbors are watching. Why didn't you protect me? I demanded, my voice raw. Why'd you kick me out? He didn't answer, just repeated, go, or I'll call the cops. I backed away, my chest burning with anger and hurt. They'd raised me, then discarded me like trash. I wasn't done yet, though. I'd find the truth, no matter what. Leaving Atlanta felt like cutting a cord I'd been tied to my whole life. I caught a bus to Charlotte, North Carolina, with $30 in my pocket and a backpack stuffed with clothes. The city was new, unfamiliar, its skyline sharp against the evening sky. I didn't know anyone, but that was the point. I needed a fresh start, away from the foster home that never felt like home. My chest still ached from Richard and Linda's betrayal, but I wasn't going to let it break me. The first few weeks were brutal. I stayed in a shelter downtown, a cramped place with creaky cots and the constant hum of voices. I lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying their words. We never loved you. It stung, but it also lit a fire in me. I wasn't going to be the kid they threw away. I found odd jobs washing dishes at a diner, stocking shelves at a corner store, cleaning offices after hours. Every paycheck went into a small tin I kept hidden in my bag. I counted every dollar, knowing it was my ticket to something better. After 2 months, I saved enough to rent a tiny apartment in a rundown building on the edge of Charlotte. The walls were thin, the sink leaked, and the heater barely worked, but it was mine. I stood in the empty living room, my footsteps echoing, and felt a flicker of pride. No one handed this to me. I earned it. Still, the loneliness hit hard. Nights were the worst, when the silence let my thoughts spiral back to Atlanta, to the family that didn't want me. I enrolled in night classes at Central Piedmont Community College, juggling work and school. My days were a blur, flipping burgers at a fast food joint, then rushing to campus for math or English classes. I'd collapse on my mattress at midnight, exhausted but determined. I wanted a future, something solid, something they couldn't take away. My grades were decent, and my professors noticed my effort. One of them, Dr. Harris, pulled me aside after class. You've got drive, James, she said, her voice kind but firm. Don't let it go to waste. Her words stuck with me, a reminder I was more than my past. At the diner where I worked, I met Sarah. She was a new server, with a warm smile and eyes that seemed to see right through you. We got to talking during slow shifts, sharing stories over lukewarm coffee. She was from Raleigh, chasing a marketing degree while working to pay her bills. You're tougher than you look, she said one day, grinning as I balanced a tray of plates. I laughed, but her words meant more than she knew. For the first time in months, I didn't feel so alone. Sarah became my anchor. We'd hang out after work, grabbing cheap tacos or walking through uptown Charlotte, talking about everything, our dreams, our fears, the dumb stuff that made us laugh. She didn't pry about my past, but one night, over milkshakes at a 24-hour diner, I told her about Atlanta. Not everything, just the basics, how my foster parents kicked me out, how I ended up here. Her face softened, and she reached across the table, squeezing my hand. They don't get to define you, James. You're doing this on your own, and that's huge. Her belief in me was like a lifeline. I started to see a future beyond survival. I worked harder, saved more, even got a better job as a clerk at a small marketing firm downtown. It wasn't much, but it was steady, with a desk and a paycheck I could count on. Sarah got hired at the same firm a few months later, and we'd steal moments between meetings, joking about our boss's terrible coffee breath or planning our next late-night adventure. Still, the past lingered like a shadow. I'd catch myself wondering why Richard and Linda turned on me so fast. Was it really just their friends' whispers, or something deeper? deeper? I tried calling them once, late at night, when the weight of it all felt too heavy. No answer. I left a voicemail, my voice steady but raw. I just want to know why, that's all. They never called back. It hurt, but it also fueled me. I wasn't going to beg for their answers. I had a life to build. Sarah noticed when I'd get quiet, lost in those thoughts. One evening, as we sat on a park bench watching the Charlotte skyline light up, she nudged me. "You're carrying something heavy, aren't you?" she asked, her voice soft. I nodded, staring at the ground. "It's hard to let go," I admitted, "but I'm trying." She smiled, resting her head on my shoulder. "You're doing more than trying, James. You're winning." That moment, with the city lights glowing and Sarah by my side, felt like a turning point. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was building something real, a life, a future. But deep down, I knew I'd never be free until I faced the truth about why my foster parents threw me out. That question still burned, and I wasn't sure I was ready for the answer. Life in Charlotte was starting to feel like mine. 3 years after leaving Atlanta, I had a steady job, a small apartment, and Sarah. She was my rock, the one who made the hard days bearable. I knew I wanted to spend my life with her. I'd been saving for months, skipping takeout and side gigs to afford a ring. It wasn't flashy, but it was perfect for her, a simple band with a small diamond that caught the light just right. I planned the proposal down to the minute, wanting to give her a night she'd never forget. I booked a table at the Skyline, a rooftop restaurant in uptown Charlotte. The view was unreal city lights stretching out under a pink and gold sunset. Sarah's eyes sparkled as we were led to a private corner table, tucked away with a perfect view of the skyline. "James, this is incredible," she said, her voice soft with awe. She looked beautiful, her curls catching the fading light. I grinned, my heart pounding. "You deserve it," I said, squeezing her hand. "Only the best for you." We ate, laughed, and reminisced. She teased me about the time I spilled coffee on my boss's desk, and I reminded her of our first date when she tripped over a curb and laughed it off. Every story felt like a thread tying us closer. But as the night went on, my mind drifted, the weight of my past. Richard and Linda's betrayal crept in. I pushed it down, focusing on Sarah's smile, the way she made me feel whole. After dessert, the waiter poured us champagne. My hands shook as I reached into my pocket, feeling the velvet box. I stood, my throat tight, and dropped to one knee. The restaurant seemed to fade away. "Sarah," I started, my voice steady despite my nerves. "You've been my light through everything. The hard days, the good ones, you make them all better. I can't imagine my life without you." I opened the box, the ring glinting in the candlelight. "Will you marry me?" Her eyes filled with tears, her hand covering her mouth. For a moment she was silent, and my heart stopped. Then she nodded, a huge smile breaking through. "Yes, James, yes." I slipped the ring on her finger, and we stood, holding each other tight. The other diners clapped, but it felt like just us in that moment. I was happy, truly happy for the first time in years. But even as we celebrated, a shadow lingered. The pain of Atlanta, of being thrown out, never fully left. It was there, quiet but heavy, in the back of my mind. A few weeks later, my phone buzzed with a message that stopped me cold. It was from Richard, my foster dad. "James, we need to talk. We owe you an explanation. Please." I stared at the screen, my stomach churning. After all this time, part of me wanted to delete it, to keep building my life without them. But another part, the part still haunted by their rejection, needed answers. I showed Sarah the message that night, my hands restless as I paced our apartment. "They don't deserve you," she said, her voice firm but kind. "But if you need closure, hear them out. You're strong enough to handle it." She was right. I couldn't keep running from the truth. I replied to Richard, agreeing to meet at a coffee shop in Charlotte. My heart was a mess, anger, curiosity, fear, all tangled together. What could they say to justify throwing me out? Was it really about race, like I'd feared, or something else? The day of the meeting, I sat in the coffee shop, my hands wrapped around a cold cup of coffee. Richard and Linda walked in, looking older, their faces lined with something like regret. My chest tightened as they sat across from me. Richard spoke first, his voice low. "James, we're sorry. We need to tell you what happened." I leaned back, arms crossed, my jaw tight. "I'm listening," I said, my tone sharp. "But this better be good." They exchanged a glance, and Linda's eyes were already wet. Richard cleared his throat. "When you turned 18, we found out money was missing. A lot of it. From our emergency fund." My heart skipped. Money? They thought I stole from them? The accusation hit like a slap, and the old anger flared up. I wanted to walk out, but I stayed, my hands clenched under the table. I needed to hear the rest, to finally know why they'd turned their backs on me. The coffee shop in Charlotte was quiet, the hum of conversation barely reaching our corner table. Richard and Linda sat across from me, their faces tense. My hands gripped the edge of my chair, knuckles tight, as Richard's words sank in. $10,000, he repeated, his voice low. It was gone from the emergency fund we kept in the house, in a lockbox, hidden in the study. Linda's eyes darted to the floor, her hands twisting a napkin. I leaned forward, my voice sharp. "And you thought I took it? Me?" My heart pounded, anger rising like a tide. "You raised me for 15 years, and you just assumed I'd steal from you?" Richard flinched, but he didn't look away. "Our friend Linda Carter convinced us it was you. She said she saw you near the study, acting strange, right before the money went missing." Linda Carter, their close family friend, always at their house, always quick with a smile that never reached her eyes. I remembered her pointed comments about my attitude attitude, her whispers to Richard and Linda when she thought I wasn't listening. My jaw clenched. You believed her over me, without even asking? Linda's voice broke as she spoke, tears spilling. We were so angry, James. Hurt. We didn't know how to face you. We thought you'd admit it if we confronted you. I laughed, a bitter sound that made them flinch. So you kicked me out on my 18th birthday. No questions, no chance to defend myself. Just threw me away. My chest burned, the old wound tearing open. Richard rubbed his face, looking older than I'd ever seen him. We were wrong, James. We know that now. We're so sorry. But their apologies felt hollow, like words meant to ease their guilt, not mine. I left the coffee shop, my mind racing. Linda Carter. She'd pointed the finger at me, and they'd believed her without a second thought. That night, I couldn't sleep. Sarah held me as I paced our apartment, her voice soft but firm. You need to know the truth, James. Dig deeper. She was right. I wasn't letting this go. I grabbed my phone and started scrolling through social media, combing through Linda Carter's profiles for any clue. Hours later, I found it. A post from 3 years ago, right around the time I was kicked out. It was a photo of Linda standing next to a shiny red Mustang, her smile wide. The caption read, "Dream car, finally mine, hard work pays off." My stomach twisted. The timing was too perfect. I scrolled through the comments, my heart pounding. One stood out. "Whoa, Linda, did you hit the jackpot?" Her reply was cagey. "Just smart saving and a little help from a friend." A friend? Or stolen cash? I called Mike the next morning, my voice urgent. "I think Linda Carter took the money. She bought a car right after I got kicked out. Same amount, 10 grand. Mike whistled. "That's no coincidence. We need proof." We hatched a plan. Mike would visit the dealership, posing as Linda's cousin, to ask about the car's payment. He called me back that afternoon, his voice tense. "James, you're not gonna believe this. The salesman said Linda paid cash. 10,000, straight up, no financing." My blood ran cold. It was her. She'd stolen the money and let me take the fall. My hands shook as I thanked Mike and hung up. I needed to confront her, to hear it from her own mouth. I drove to her house in Atlanta the next day, my heart hammering. The familiar street felt like a punch to the gut, but I pushed through. I knocked on her door, my phone recording in my pocket, just in case. Linda answered, her smile fading when she saw me. "James, what are you doing here?" Her voice was nervous, her eyes darting. I didn't waste time. "I know about the car, Linda. 10 grand, cash, right after I got kicked out. You blamed me for stealing it." Her face paled, and she stepped back. I don't know what you're talking about." But her voice cracked, and I pressed harder. "You lied. You took the money and let them think it was me." She broke, tears streaming down her face. "I was desperate, James. I was drowning in debt. I didn't mean for it to go this far." She sobbed, admitting she'd taken the cash from the lockbox, knowing Richard and Linda would never suspect her. She'd pinned it on me because I was the easy target, the foster kid, the outsider. My stomach churned with rage, but I stayed calm. I had her confession. I took the recording to Richard and Linda. They listened, their faces crumpling as the truth sank in. "James, we're so sorry," Linda whispered, her voice breaking. "We should have trusted you." I nodded, my throat tight. "You should have, but you didn't." I told them their apology wasn't enough. The years of exclusion, the betrayal, it was too much. I walked out, my heart heavy but resolute. I'd cleared my name, but the scars remained. The months leading up to my wedding felt like a whirlwind. Sarah and I planned every detail, from the flowers to the music, in our small Charlotte apartment. I wanted the day to be perfect for her, a celebration of the life we were building. But as the date approached, one decision weighed heavy: whether to invite Richard and Linda. After everything, their betrayal, the false accusation, their apologies that came too late, I couldn't bring myself to include them. Their presence would cast a shadow over our joy. I told Sarah, my voice steady but soft, "I can't have them there, not after what they did." She squeezed my hand, her eyes warm. "It's our day, James. You choose who shares it." The wedding was at a small venue in uptown Charlotte, with fairy lights strung across the ceiling and a view of the city skyline. Sarah walked down the aisle in a simple white dress, her smile brighter than the summer sun. My heart swelled as I took her hands, my best friend Mike standing beside me as best man. Our friends filled the room, their laughter and cheers wrapping us in warmth. For the first time, I felt surrounded by a family I'd chosen, not one I'd been forced into. When we said our vows, I promised Sarah I'd always be her home, just as she'd been mine. The crowd erupted as we kissed, and in that moment, the pain of my past felt far away. But it wasn't gone. Richard and Linda found out about the wedding through a mutual friend. They sent a message, their words heavy with regret. "We're hurt, but we understand. We wish you happiness." I read it, my chest tight, and set the phone down. Part of me felt a pang of guilt, but the larger part knew I'd made the right call. Their apologies couldn't erase the years of feeling like an outsider, or the way they'd thrown me out without a second thought. Life after the wedding was a new chapter. Sarah and I moved into a small house in a quiet Charlotte suburb, with a porch and a tiny backyard. We'd sit out there at night, talking about our dreams, starting a family, maybe opening a small business one day. The pain of my past didn't vanish, but it became a dull ache, easier to carry with Sarah by my side. At work, I kept pushing, landing a promotion to a management role at the marketing firm. It felt like proof I was more than the kid they'd discarded. Sarah cheered me on, her pride in me a light I hadn't known I needed. Every now and then, Richard and Linda would reach reach out holiday texts, short voicemails, always apologizing, always asking for a chance to reconnect. I'd stare at the messages, torn. Part of me wanted to forgive, to believe they'd changed, but the hurt ran deep, a wound that hadn't fully healed. One night, over dinner, I told Sarah about their latest message. She set down her fork, her eyes steady. Forgiveness doesn't mean letting them back in, James. It means letting go of the anger for you, not them. Her words hit me hard, like a truth I'd been circling but couldn't name. I thought about it for weeks. The anger I'd carried, it was heavy, a weight I didn't want anymore. So, one quiet evening, I sat down and wrote them a letter. My pen moved slowly, each word deliberate. I appreciate your apologies, I wrote. I forgive you for what you did, but I'm not ready for a relationship. I wish you well. I mailed it, my hands steady, and felt a lightness I hadn't expected. It wasn't about them, it was about me, choosing peace over pain. Months later, Sarah and I welcomed our daughter, Emma. Holding her for the first time, her tiny fingers curled around mine, I felt a love so fierce it took my breath away. I looked at Sarah, her eyes tired but glowing, and promised myself I'd be the father Emma deserved, present, loving, never turning her away. As I rocked her to sleep, I thought about my own childhood, the rejection I'd faced. I'd never let Emma feel that. She'd know she was wanted, every single day. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. With Sarah and Emma, I'd built something real, something unbreakable. The scars from Atlanta were still there, but they didn't define me anymore. I'd found my way, not because of Richard and Linda, but despite them. As I looked at my daughter's sleeping face, I knew the future was ours, and I was ready to face it.